The old man lived in a remote village at the foot of the mountains. His house was old, his roof was cracked, and he had barely enough food in his stash to last a day. The only thing of value he had left was a mule named Thunder. Thunder had once been young and strong, carrying sacks of grain, plowing the land, and even taking the old man to the neighboring town. But now the mule had grown old and his strength was less. The old man loved him, but realized that without money he would not survive. "I'm sorry, Thunder, but we must part," he said one day, stroking the mule's neck. The next day the old man went to the market. The road was long, his legs shook with fatigue, and Grom seemed to realize what was happening. He walked slowly, as if he didn't want to go where he would be sold. In the marketplace, the old man tied the mule to a pole and waited for customers. A young merchant came up, looked at Thunder and shook his head. "This mule is too old. He will bring you nothing." Another buyer came, but he too left without offering any money. The old man sighed. The day was drawing to a close and still no buyer. "I guess we'll have to go home, Thunder," he said sadly. But suddenly a stout man in fine clothes came up to him. He scrutinized the mule, patted his mane, and asked, "Has he served you faithfully?" "Yes," nodded the old man. "Thunder is like a friend to me." The man thought for a moment, then took out his wallet and handed the old man some coins. "I'm not buying it. This is payment for your being a good master to him. Take care of yourself, old man." Tears came to the old man's eyes. He bowed, then turned to Thunder. "Looks like I still need you, friend. Let's go home." And they set off back, together as before. A few days passed. The old man bought some food, fixed the leaky roof, even shared some bread with a neighbor boy. But the money quickly ran out. The pantry was empty again, and the old man no longer had the strength to work. With a heavy heart, he looked at Grom again. "I'm sorry, friend, but we'll have to go to the market again," he said, stroking the mule's backside. Thunder seemed to understand. He didn't snort, didn't stomp his hoof, just lowered his head. The road to the market seemed even longer. The old man walked slowly, leaning on his staff, and Thunder walked beside him, obediently carrying his burden, not sacks of grain, but a farewell. This time there were more buyers. An elderly merchant approached the mule. He grumbled, patting Thunder on the back. The old man nodded silently. "I'll give you 3 coins for him." 3 coins is not much. It wouldn't even buy a sack of flour. The old man wanted to refuse, but suddenly he heard a voice. It was the same man who had recently given him money. He looked at the old man carefully, then at the mule. "Do you want to sell it again?" The old man sighed. "I'm out of money. I have no choice." The man shook his head and grinned. "You do have a choice. You won't sell the mule. You're going to sell yourself." The old man was taken aback. "I am an innkeeper," the man continued. "I need someone who knows how to take care of animals. Feed, water, clean the stalls. It's not much work, you'll live warm, you'll always have food. And your mule will stay with you." The old man couldn't believe his ears. "You're serious?" "Of course I am. So make up your mind, old man." He looked at Thunder. The old mule raised his head and snorted, as if to encourage his master. "Come on, Thunder," the old man said quietly. "It is time for us to go home." But this time their home was a warm, cozy inn. The old man settled in the inn. It was a big, noisy place, with travelers coming and going, horses neighing in the stable, and the smell of fresh bread and hay in the air. The master kept his word. The old man got a small room with a warm stove, a simple but clean bed, and 3 hearty meals a day. Thunder was also given a place. He was given a stall, the manger was filled with oats, and even his skin was cleaned. The old man worked leisurely. He fed the horses, cleaned the stables, patched up old bridles. He knew how to treat the animals, and they loved him. Even the crankiest horses stopped bucking when he approached. A month passed. The old man did not go to bed hungry for the first time in years. He grew stronger, his back straightened, and there was a spark of life in his eyes. One evening a horseman rode up to the inn. His horse was lame. "Who takes care of your horses?" he asked glumly. The owner grinned and pointed at the old man. Him. The rider looked incredulous at first, but when he saw how confidently the old man was examining his horse's hoof, he was surprised. "You know a lot about horses, old man." "All my life with them," he replied simply. The old man treated the horse's leg and applied a bandage. The rider was satisfied and slipped a silver coin into his hand. "Thank you." The old man clenched the coin in his fist. He couldn't remember the last time he had earned money through honest labor. Rumors had spread quickly. Now travelers stopped at the inn not only for food and rest, but also for the old man who knows what to do with the horses. Soon the old man was no longer just an employee. He became a stable boy. He was respected. He was sought out for advice. And Thunder was still around. He no longer worked, no longer carried heavy loads, but every evening the old man came to him, brought him a treat and whispered, "Thank you, friend. I couldn't have done it without you." Thunder would gently nudge him with his muzzle as if to say, "I know." Months passed. The old man had completely settled in at the inn. He no longer felt useless. He was respected, his advice was listened to, his horses were trusted. Thunder felt good about himself too. He was no longer that sturdy working mule, but he was still a loyal friend of the old man. During the day he walked freely in the yard, and in the evening he stood beside him while the old man cleaned the stalls, as if he were helping. But one day, one cold fall evening, Thunder did not come to the call. The old man got worried. He went around the yard, looked in the stall, and it was empty. Then he went outside the gate and saw him. Thunder was lying in the grass, breathing heavily, his old eyes were tired. The old man fell on his knees before him. "Thunder Dash," his voice trembled. The mule lifted his head slightly, snorting softly as if saying goodbye. "You were the best friend I ever had," the old man whispered, stroking his head. Thunder closed his eyes. His breathing became quieter, and then it was gone. The old man sat beside him for a long time, until the yard master came over and put a hand on his shoulder. "He has lived a good life," he said quietly. The old man nodded, but could not say a word. The next morning the whole yard gathered to see Grum off. He was buried under a big oak tree, near the pasture where he liked to walk. The old man stood by the mound of earth for a long time, and then suddenly smiled through his tears. "Thank you, friend," he said. "I'll manage." He went back to work, but every evening he came to the oak tree, sat down beside it, and talked about the past day. And then, a few years later, when his gray hair was all white, he didn't go out to the horses one day. He was found in a chair, near the stove, with a slight smile on his face. "He went quietly away," said the yard master. "So did his mule. He was buried there, under that very oak tree." Now they were together again.